Is the electric vehicle revolution finally hitting a roadblock? Even big names like GM and Ford are sitting on tons of unsold electric cars. I mean over 92,000 unsold EVs, and they're not happy about it. Why are car makers calling electric cars a scam? It's a bit complicated, but let's find out. The rise of electric vehicles has sparked some concerns about their impact on the middle class. Recently, EV manufacturers sent a strong message advising people to reconsider their choice and go back to traditional combustion cars. Why? Well, they claim it's to avoid burdening the middle class. With numerous unsold EVs sitting in dealerships, it seems the excitement around electric cars might be fading. This shift could bring good news for potential buyers, as prices are expected to drop. However, before you get too excited, let's explore some issues with EVs that aren't getting enough attention. It seems like the political push for electric vehicles might be overlooking some significant problems. Here's what's been happening. The Biden administration has been urging car manufacturers to produce more EVs. If they can't keep up, tough luck. However, in a surprising move, car makers are now threatening to distance themselves from EVs, claiming they are more of a scam hurting their businesses. While promoting EVs may seem like a positive step for the environment, there's more to the story. Now, let's break it down. Imagine you were thinking about buying an EV. Well, the good news is that prices might drop soon. The not so good news? There are some hidden problems with EVs that the people in charge might not be telling us. It turns out, car manufacturers are not happy with the pressure to make more electric cars, and they are considering going against the trend. But why are they saying EVs are a scam? That's a question worth asking. It seems there are flaws in the current push for electric cars, and car makers want to make sure you know about them. So, what should happen now? Some argue that instead of forcing everyone to switch to EVs, the focus should be on giving people the cars they really want. Although EVs are facing some major challenges right now, there are 4 significant issues that often go unnoticed. But before diving into that, let's talk about why many EV makers are butting heads with the government. The disappointment is real. EVs are too pricey for the average person, and if they don't sell well, automakers, big names like GM, Ford, Hyundai, and Toyota might have to rethink their strategy. It's not just a matter of affordability. The government has invested a whopping $9 billion to encourage EV adoption, including a $7,500 tax credit for buyers. But the consequences of this might make you reconsider your love for EVs. Now, let's focus on GM, Ford, and the ticking time bomb they're sitting on. GM is dealing with the pressure, trying to boost production of their next-gen Ultium EVs. However, out of the 36,024 EVs delivered in the first half of the year, only a tiny fraction were these new models. They plan to build 100,000 electric vehicles in North America in the latter half of the year, but with the current situation, it feels like a risky move. Ford isn't in a better spot either. They have 86 days worth of unsold F-150 Lightnings and a staggering 113 days worth of Mustang Mach-E SUVs. Ford argues these numbers are a bit inflated, but the reality check is still pretty grim. They manufactured over 46,000 Mach-E's in the first half of the year, but only managed to sell around 14,000. Things got so desperate in May that they even cut prices to lure in buyers. Now, let's take a look at Volkswagen. Their dealers are struggling with 131 days worth of ID. 4 electric SUVs. That's a lot of cars just waiting for someone to take them for a spin. Volkswagen admits there's a bit of a slowdown in the US EV market, but they're optimistic about the ID. 4, despite a unique challenge. It seems there's a shortage of all-wheel drive versions, the very thing American buyers are craving. But guess what? The whole EV hype might be losing its charge, and the big players are feeling the jolt. Even Tesla, the electric titan, is slashing prices and seeing a dip in sales. It's become a full-blown price war, with the average selling price of EVs dropping significantly to $53,438 in the second quarter. Just to give you a comparison, it peaked at a whopping $66,390 in June 2022. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Automakers find themselves caught between fierce competition and a push from Washington. President Biden dreams of 2 out of every 3 cars sold being electric by 2030. But here's the twist. People aren't exactly lining up to buy into this plan. Now, remember we said something about the 4 major problems that are keeping people from buying EVs, right? Now let's take a clearer look at it. To start with, have you ever wondered about the actual distance an electric vehicle can cover? Well, here's the thing. Many companies don't tell you all you need to know about the true range. This is significant, especially in situations like living in the boonies, chilly weather, or when you need your EV for heavy-duty tasks like hauling. It's not just a small hiccup, it's a big speed bump on the road to everyone embracing electric cars. You know those impressive range numbers they advertise? Well, those are often under perfect conditions, mild weather, flat roads, and an empty car. In the real world though, that range can take a nosedive. And guess what? If you're in a remote area or facing extreme weather, this range trouble becomes a real headache. Now, think about cold weather. It's not EV's best friend. When the temperature drops, the efficiency of the batteries, which are the powerhouses of EVs, takes a hit. Imagine losing 20% to 40% of your EV's range. That's a lot. Why? Because those lithium-ion batteries get a bit lazy in the cold. And to add insult to injury, if you want to stay warm inside the car, the heater gulps down more battery power, waving goodbye to your range. Living in a place surrounded by mountains or far from big cities sounds peaceful, right? But imagine you're in such a spot, and the closest place to charge your EV is over 50 miles away. Now, what if I told you that your EV might not make it there and back without running out of power? That's a real concern for a lot of people living in remote areas. Here's another problem. If you use your EV for heavy-duty tasks like towing or carrying loads, it takes a toll on the range. The extra weight demands more power from the battery, cutting down how far your EV can go on a single charge. Now think about someone who relies on their vehicle for work, hauling equipment or transporting goods. For them, EVs might not be practical at all. Sure, there are big EV pickups boasting a 500-mile range. Sounds great, right? But what's the use if you can't cover that distance without stopping for a recharge? It's like having a super fast car that needs constant pit stops during a race. Not very convenient, is it? Now, let's talk about charging stations. You've probably heard companies claiming you can charge your EV in 30 minutes, or that there are over 100,000 charging stations out there. But what if I told you that's not entirely true? In fact, big players like GM and Ford got hit with hefty fines for misleading ads. Can you believe that? And okay, we've all heard about Tesla's supercharging network growing rapidly. But here's the catch that many overlook. Ever wondered why? Let me break it down. So, you've got your brand new EV, thrilled to be part of the eco-friendly movement. You plan a road trip, but halfway through, it's time for a charge. So, you head to the nearest charging station, only to find it's either broken or there's an insanely long line of people waiting to juice up. How would that make you feel? Unhappy and even frustrated, right? Well, 20% of EV owners have experiences like this, according to a recent survey. Scores for fast charging and regular charging stations are at an all-time low due to various issues, including slow charging speeds and a lack of nearby facilities. Let's be real, waiting for hours at a charging station isn't anyone's idea of a good time. Now, here's where the satisfaction level takes a turnaround. Scores for both fast charging and level 2 charging stations have hit rock bottom, the lowest since 2021. It's not just about malfunctioning equipment. It's also about the cost and speed of charging and the lack of nearby amenities. Sounds frustrating, doesn't it? Let's dive into the charging speed. Level 2 chargers are painfully slow, providing only about 25 miles of range per hour of charging. If your EV battery is completely drained, imagine waiting for hours to get a full charge, basically spending half a day at a charging station. Now that's far from convenient, but brace yourself, it gets even worse. Many people face a real headache when it comes to charging electric vehicles. In places like Fort Lauderdale, 35% of attempts to charge end up failing. And it's not just the reliability, the cost of EV charging is hitting wallets hard. Public charging often comes with a higher price tag compared to juicing up at home. Adding to the frustration, the EV market is still young, leading to confusion for new owners. Now, for EV owners and those thinking about making the switch, these issues are a major turnoff. Unreliable charging and dissatisfaction are driving people away from embracing EVs. The financial sting doesn't help either. Purchasing an EV can set you back nearly $20,000 more than a hybrid. Here's the kicker. To make up for that upfront cost, you'd have to drive your EV for at least 60,000 miles. Sure, 60K might not sound like a lot, But by then, your car's battery capacity would have dropped by almost 30%, and its value would plummet by nearly 60%. In comparison, if you had chosen a hybrid at a similar price, you'd only be looking at a 30% drop in the car's value. Perhaps the most concerning problem is the feeling of being forced into EVs with no alternatives. Automakers like Honda, Toyota, and even VW have raised concerns about having only EVs as the sole option. This push might be too hasty and risks leaving consumers with limited choices. The American car industry is in a bit of a pickle when it comes to EVs. President Biden wants everyone driving them, offering big tax breaks to encourage people to make the switch. But things haven't gone quite as planned. Instead of grabbing a shiny new EV, many people are opting for cheaper hybrid cars, especially those from Japanese brands. This unexpected move has left American giants like Ford and GM in a tough spot. Ford, for example, is losing a whopping $36,000 on every EV they sell. They've even stopped making some models for now, and their whole EV division could lose $4 billion this year. Ouch! Tesla, the king of EVs, isn't doing much better. Their stock price has taken a nosedive, and Elon Musk has been forced to cut prices like a barber on Black Friday. But GM might be the real poster child for EV struggles. They've had to shut down factories, and their CEO, Mary Barra, is getting major heat for her leadership. So, what's the deal? Why isn't everyone rushing to embrace EVs? Well, it's not as simple as flipping a switch. EVs are still expensive, charging stations aren't everywhere, and people aren't used to them yet. Politicians like Biden might want to push the EV pedal hard, but it seems the American public is tapping the brakes. It'll be interesting to see if they can find a way to smooth out the bumps in this electric road. Are politicians, by pushing EVs on all car makers, inadvertently causing more harm than good? It seems like the consequences of these decisions are affecting not only the targeted companies, but also triggering a broader impact on the entire electric vehicle landscape. What are your thoughts on this situation? Let us know in the comment section.